So Richard, why don't you start, and why don't we introduce ourselves a bit?
Happy to. So I'm Richard. I'm one half of Rethinking Choices. David is the other. I grew up in Sweden. I moved to London about 27 years ago. I've worked my whole life as an investment manager at various funds and banks, managing various types of financial instruments along the way. And when I met David 6 years ago at the place we were working then, we started looking into sustainable investing and sustainability in a very deep way. And our conclusion from that exercise was basically that there is no such thing as sustainable investing, and that we need to rethink how we do our business and what our economic models look like. And that culminated with us writing a book that came out a year and a half ago called The Unsustainable Truth. And since then, we've been progressively pushing an idea to actually keep climate change in check, which is called transformational ownership, where we, the people on this planet, actually take control of our destiny by buying out all the oil, gas, and coal producers in the world, and making sure that we start tapering our production and use of these fossil fuels. And we can only do that if we are the people in control, so we get some sort of say in our own destiny. And we're looking forward very much to David going to visit Kaka in Nairobi in 2 weeks' time for the formal launch of the campaign, The Things That Give Us Joy. Because to us, it's very, very clear that what will convince people that it's a good idea and make people believe in the empowerment that this solution actually gives you, you need to look to the things that gives you joy in life, because that's what makes life worth living. I think you're muted, David.
Yeah, I just realized.
Yeah.
How about? I think we've spoken to you before, Natalia Foundation. How about an introduction of what you do? Would you like that? Hello? Hello?
So we have Queen Frank. Queen Frank, you're free to talk and probably introduce yourself. We also have Camelia Simon from Natalia Foundation. Could you, I know it's not the first time you're meeting David and Richard, so if you could just unmute yourself and just talk. At least we do some sort of introduction so that you can be able to know who you're talking to, and yeah, in that order.
I'm not in a position to speak. Allow me to use my chat. Yes, please do so, and we'll just read it out, please. Yes. So please do introduce yourself a little, and what the Natalia Foundation may be, so to help us, and Queen Frank as well, if you would like to speak, then please do, if you're in a position, or use the chat. Hello? If not, we can talk a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
So I I just want to say that actually I think this is the EACCGN. We met up with Kaka at the beginning of the year. I guess around the time of COP, and we really sort of connect more at the beginning of this year, and we've been amazed at the energy that young people in places where you come from have, and the focus that you have towards the issues that concerns you and concerns everybody else in the world in that way. From our side, what we think is very important is to say that the activities you do and so on, they really you need to think about them as you probably do already, possibly, in terms of how can it help with creating livelihoods for yourselves and livelihoods for the communities that you interact with. And I think Kaka gave a comment he said about the founder of Safaricom, who said something about how every business has to have a connection with the community. And that's from sort of where Richard and I come from the investment background, is something that big money have lost in many ways. They've lost it because there's too many communities that they are trying to be associated with. And the result of that is it inevitably becomes very extractive. It inevitably uses more resources than there are around. But there's an even deeper reason and more urgent reason why when we speak with Kaka and other people about the importance of turning climate and green actions into creating livelihoods. And that's simply because the world is going to get very tough. And if people don't have livelihoods, they're not really going to be able to listen to the messages that you want to be able to give them. And if you, on the other hand, are able to create livelihoods for them along, then what you're going to find is that actually what will happen is they will be able to come along much better. And for yourself also, what is important is that you won't be able to keep doing this, because you're going to find that funding is going to become harder to get and everything will become more difficult. So, and where Richard and I come from is actually that we believe increasingly that there is plenty of scope for economics to just emerge out of all the things around you and things that you do naturally. And it takes a certain amount of skill to be able to recognize it, and a certain amount of confidence and belief to be able to do so. And I guess that's sort of where we've tried to add some ability, some of our experience to help in that regards. And our main purpose towards all this is so that we can all stand up and say we don't need other people to stop producing the oil, gas, and coal that's causing all the craziness in the weather and harming all of us. We can stand up ourselves and actually take over them ourselves. And to be able to do that, to be able to have all the people from around the world be able to listen to you as you want to give that message along, what you need to be able to demonstrate to them is join us, because we can help your life get better. And that's where the livelihood aspect of it comes to be important. Okay, I think I saw something on the chat just now, so I'm just going to pick that up. So this is Richard. Do you want to read it?
I can do that.
Yeah.
Do you have screen share?
It's all right. I mean, from the Natalia Foundation is Camelia Simon. I'm currently the executive director of Natalia Foundation in Tanzania. One of our focus areas is environment specific on climate change. I'm happy to be here and look forward to meaningful engagements. Us too. So sorry, someone was speaking, I think, from iPhone. And I think we may have lost Queen Frank.
Yeah. Ah. Yeah. Coming back on.
Yeah, so basically, I hope, I don't know, I think I should speak in Swahili a little bit. Tanzania is Swahili, Swahili. So you forgive me, Richard and David, for me to speak a little bit
No,
Swahili.
please. We
do,
love to learn.
Kwa hivyo kwa ndugu zetu, dada zetu ambao wako hapa, tunajaribu kufanya discussion kidogo na tunataka kufanya introduction. Kwa hivyo tuweze kujintroduce, sema tu jina lako na passion yako pale kwenye mazingira. Naona iPhone amejoin vile vile Queen Frank. Kama unaweza tu ongea pale chini, bonyeza pale kwenye kidude, unaji-unmute, alafu sasa unaongea. Asanteni. I hope mnanisikia iPhone baba.
Okay. My name is Baraka. I'm from Tanzania. I guess you guys, you have just been introducing to each other and you know each other well, but sorry for coming late. Yeah, my name is Baraka from Tanzania. That's it.
Welcome. It's good to speak with you. This is good. This is really great. I'm actually watching a few things. I think one of the things that Kaka and I was talking about that would be exciting to do in some ways, right, is kind of a little bit of kind of simple kind of competition. I asked this challenge, I guess, rather than competition. Can you make rice without burning something or without electricity? Can you cook rice? And that was a sort of challenge. And the reason for it is because we were speaking with some students from Malawi after Cyclone Freddy went through it. And they were talking about how in the south, they had lost electricity for a whole week. And there's this thing about the fact that we all need energy. And when people think about ways of energy, we very often think about ways that require us to have money in order to be able to have energy in that way. But in Malawi, you have about 6 kilowatt hour of solar power of heat from the sun in terms of energy in every square meter. So, hold your hands out, and that's kind of like a square meter, lengthwise that every day along. And that's enough to cook, and that's enough to charge a lot of phones and do a lot of those things. And the question really is, how do you capture that with a technology that you can use without it being like a sophisticated solar panel? The reason why without it being like a sophisticated solar panel is because they cost a lot. So that's one problem, because communities can't really afford it. But more importantly, if they break down, you can't fix it. So if it needs you to do that, then it's really hard. And I took a walk. I used to be a physicist. So I took a walk today to this meeting about mapping the future. And we've got some things to say a little bit about that in a bit. And as I was going through, it was quite sunny, I was quite warm, and I was trying to work out how much energy you can capture, basically, from the sun in a piece of metal, essentially. And basically, you can capture in a piece of in kind of like the space of kind of like that big, you can actually capture enough to cook quite readily. You just need to direct the sunlight together, put it inside something which traps the heat, surround it maybe with a metal surrounding so that it heats it up, maybe paint it black for it to radiate within it well. Or maybe you can actually just say, what if I just have a piece of metal, left it out in the sun, and direct some sunlight more to it, leave it out for a few hours. Is that enough to cook? And I reckon that actually it would be enough. So you have those sort of things, and those are what I can think of as appropriate technology. Where once you are able to do that, if you imagine you can now cook and you can boil water, you can create a steam engine. And if you can create steam engine, you can have all sorts of kinetic power, and you can have all sorts of electrical power. You can have all kinds of things out of it. And I think that where Richard and I come from when we talk about emergent technology and emergent economics is really economics that can start from things like that. And the materials you need for those things are generally things which are around. And so it actually becomes possible to make advances, even in situations where you think it's not possible. And again, that's important because when we look at, for example, Ghana, places like that would have just defaulted on their debt, and other countries which are in discussions about their debt and so on, is that those problems don't get resolved just simply because you try and default on it. There's all sorts of structural reasons about how the money still doesn't go to the places where you wish they would go to. And so it becomes a question of how can we actually help people in those places to help themselves. And if we're able to do that, that's basically what we're saying with transformational ownership, which is the idea that we help ourselves. We don't need to be protesting and petitioning to people who don't listen to us. We help ourselves to tackle the biggest problem around with our crazy weather and everything, which is who controls oil, gas, and coal. The people who own it controls that. So let's take that out of their hands and let's own it as a group of people, as a community of people from all around the world together. And we had this idea along. What we've found is that there's so much enthusiasm and optimism with the young people we've met from East Africa and from countries like Kenya and Malawi, Burundi, and all these places that we actually think, it's made Richard and I really feel, we're in the right place. We can really go ahead and do this sort of thing. And we're looking forward to creating together a path that everybody can see. And they can all become a part of it from other parts of the world. And they can become that because they can see that actually we can look after each other and we can look after the planet and our environment and everything around us. So that's kind of why I'm excited about coming over, why I'm excited about the launch of the East African Campuses and College Degree Network, and the sort of opportunities that are actually abundant, that we can take advantage of, that actually allows lives to become better. And welcome, Bramwell.
So I think, David, as you just continue in that line of engagement, I think Queen Frank is saying on the chat that she can be able to talk now. Maybe you can also as well just probably engage them in it to probably also participate and hear their views, as well as in climate change. How does Tanzania look like? What are the impacts of climate change has brought into the region? I know we have been having an extensive conversation on the group chat, but I hope using this call, you can actually also air out the strides they are making also. So in that line, I just want to welcome those who have just joined us. Bramwell, welcome. I think we have heard from iPhone. Queen Frank, if you can now speak, I think you've said you can be able to talk now. It's good to introduce yourself and also probably meet David and Richard in that order so that we can continue. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Queen Frank from Tanzania, and I'm a climate change champion from Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear from Bramwell? Bramwell, are you in a position to talk?
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
loud and
thank
clear.
Okay, thank you. I'm Ramuel Lubeho from Kenya, climate change ambassador and justice and peace practitioner and advocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Bramwell is a Kenyan who ran to Tanzania. So you'll forgive him for that. Welcome so much, Bramwell.
Thank you so much.
I don't know. Camillus is not in a position to talk, but I think maybe towards the end of this, he can be able to talk. So now, Richard and David, I think you can carry on.
Okay.
I was expecting at least to have more engagement and more people joining us, but I think along the way we can probably have more people joining us. So you can go on. Thank you.
Yeah. So the way we've come to really appreciate how it is, and the way we sort of see is we started talking to Kaka about, he grows a lot of saplings. It's very important to plant, and we want to, the way we want to be able to express this is you're not just planting a tree, you're planting a community, and in that way you get the economic connection between what you do and how it can come about, and in that way you can actually have the community that actually be part of what it is that they plant and look after it, so that it's got greater chance of surviving, and also what's planted is actually what is going to be valuable, and that's how it comes. And the opposite side, we had a conversation this morning with a clothing company in Sweden, Scandinavia, and they do a lot of sort of outdoor clothing company, and they're very concerned with how to connect with kind of the world and the environment. They specialize in sort of outdoors clothing that you need to do, kind of climb up very high mountains to go,
Hiking.
parachuting off things,
Yeah.
and adventure kind of activities and those sort of stuff. And so that takes the people who buy their clothing all around the world in that way. And again, I think that the opportunities to connect up in these ways where we feel very much you can actually, there's so much that you can all help in terms of educating back to people in richer countries about how to have that optimism in the face of the changes that are happening, how to have that livelihood. I'll give another story. This is a classic story of my friend's mother. She lives in Germany. She's elderly. She lives in a very wealthy village. She's quite wealthy, and this fantastic house where everything is electronic. Everything is electronic controlled. And last year they had a power cut, and I'm sure you're all very much used to sort of load shedding and power cuts and things that happens along. But for her, it was a disaster, because what happens is she couldn't open the doors. It sounds like funny, but that's kind of how dependent the rich world have become. And their response out of it is anger, obviously. Why is it that we have a power cut? It is certainly a lot of denial in saying, this shouldn't happen to us. It should only happen to people in African countries, for example, and not, I think that's kind of how they feel. But there is this part in there where their actions that they take is they protest about it, demanding that this shouldn't happen, but they don't actually address the question of how do I make sure I can open the door? And that's a very practical, and that's a very empowering action. How do we do things so that we can help ourselves? And that's very much kind of where Richard and I are very encouraged by when we talk with people, and very much sort of the kind of path we want to do. Because if we want to take over the oil, gas and coal companies, and we want to take over the oil, gas and coal industries, we need to know that we are able to look after ourselves when we do that, because that's going to give us the confidence to know that we can do it. It is one of these things where, as we are able to do it in simple things like opening the door for ourselves, then we can open the door to the boardrooms and actually go in there and say, these are ours. they're not yours. So from the side of where Richard and I come from, we're very much motivated to be able to have a new story about how we can stop and keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground as a story we can take to the COP conference, that we can take to the time of around the COP, so that people know and people are aware that we are not just protesting outside and no one is listening. We actually want to do this in a way that makes them worry about the fact that actually we can take control ourselves. That's the way we get listened to. So, Richard, how do you think?
Well, not surprisingly, quite similarly to you, right? So,
anything you want to talk about? That's sort of, how about your talk with in Sweden when you had that conversations with people? And
I was up in Sweden 2 weeks ago. I was invited to give a lunchtime talk to basically the investment industry's risk management committees of how the effects of climate change are going to bring a lot of economic destruction to what we perceive as our wealth, mostly our financial wealth, and what the risks were there. And I think the talk was very well received. People have been aware of these risks, certainly. It's not new to them. I think where I came from a slightly different angle than most of the people that have previously talked about them is that David and I see very much that our economy is going to be the first casualty before we actually see the ecological effects of what's happening. And it's manifesting itself in many, many different ways. But what it actually boils down to is that people are losing livelihoods because of climate change. And it's affecting people everywhere across the world in various ways and to various degrees. But the effect is actually universal. And at the root of the problem sits climate change. And the inflation we have seen for goods and services over the last year very much has its roots in climate change. And it's making everything costlier. And that again emphasizes the absolute need that for us to be able to fight climate change and actually come out on the other side, if you like, we need to be able to build livelihoods around what we do while fighting climate change, because otherwise we will not succeed. And that was something I felt strongly that everyone on the conference actually took on board. And it's not something that is immediately recognizable because you think that doing good is enough. And Sweden is very much at the forefront of a lot of environmental thinking. They got legislation that is far, far more progressive than we have in the UK, where David and I live, where actually the penalties are extremely severe for people who do actual harm. But still, and again, it's worth re-emphasizing that you may want to do all the good in the world, but we need to survive and live. And for us to be able to survive, we actually need livelihoods.
And on that, I'd like to to say actually what we also need is to be very optimistic in some ways. I think I had a conversation in a few weeks ago. I was at a meeting in Chamonix. Chamonix is a place in the French Alps. It's between Switzerland and France, and Italy is right next to it. It's very high up. It's close to Mont Blanc, which I think is the highest peak in the Alps. Is that right?
Mont Blanc is the highest peak in Europe.
In Europe, so it's right sort of that sort of area. So people that love the nature and all those things. And I was there for this meeting between people who wanted to talk about what do we do with the problems we face. And I felt very agitated there. And it made me come out and say, look, the world is not a set of problems to be solved. You know, and it can easily become like that when we look at it in that way, because our lives are there for us to live, and we really need to think about it in that way. And that's why when we look at what we do, we talk about the things that give us joy, which is the name of the campaign that we're starting for us to promote building livelihoods, creating livelihoods so that we can choose, so that we have the ability for us to have the confidence to know we can actually take oil, gas, and coal out of the hands of the people who control them. But the essence of this is because we need to know we can celebrate today so that we have hope to be able to celebrate tomorrow. We need to be able to do the things that we can celebrate today. It's like, you know, if you want to win the competition, in football, you want to be able to have your goal celebrations. So you want those little goal celebrations now so that you can actually feel you can go forward. And that's important, because if we only think about how do we solve the problem ahead, as opposed to how do we actually feel joyful in our lives today, we will lose that enthusiasm and we'll lose that optimism in the face of the difficulties. But the other way around is what will actually happen. If you're able to do all that, if you're able to recognize that life's always a celebration along, which incidentally is something that someone told us from a very poor area in Kenya. And he was telling us when we were speaking to him, and he said, look, life's always a celebration. Why are you so sad? And we were like, yeah, absolutely. Then you can feel that, you know, we can come together. We can come together because there is joy in coming together, and we can recognize it. And so that's why for us, it isn't just about the problems that we face. It is rather that the problems that we face are simply ways that we can actually find ourselves, you know, to be the person that we can be, and to be the better people we can be. And that's where all of this comes together. So for us, with the East African Campuses and Colleges Green Network, we very much feel that actually this is the approach. This is kind of coming together is really important. It's not just about this course being better than that course or anything like that. It is that in coming together, we can become joyful in what we do.
Thank you, David. I think that's so great, and I think as we just move on in that line, we have Upendo Makoyusa is one of the greatest climate activists, also from Tanzania, and we had really a long chat together concerning the EACCGN, and she has got also very big instinct on her move and way of forward on how they are creating solutions to combat climate injustices. In fact, this is one of the people that I'm thinking like we can invite them to have also speak on that day. I think it's good if we could also probably give her a chance to say something. And in that line also, I can see Baraka join us. I can see Mary Kinyera has also joined us. So I don't know whether Upendo is in a position to talk.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, position of talking, I can speak.
Yeah, you go on, Upendo. I know we have an engagement with you sometimes, and also probably on chat and all that. And I think you have a wide experience on this, being climate activist coming from, from local to international, and also probably to bigger summits and all kind of thing. You could just share something concerning what you do, the challenges you face as well, and probably your view towards as we move on to launch East Africa Campuses and Colleges Green Network. We hope to have a wider view of how we can be able to combat climate injustices alongside how we can be able to create livelihoods for the young people on their climate actions. So yeah, go on.
Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, I don't know what time is it in your places, but so far in Tanzania and East Africa, this is evening. So good evening, everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
We are late afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So my name, as how I've been introduced, my name is Upendo Mwakyusa, an environment scientist and a climate activist from Tanzania. And also I'm the founder of a Call for Environmental Conservation organization, which operates nationwide in Tanzania. But also I'm a writer. I do write different articles concerning climate change and environment conservation. And since I had this invitation in short notice, but I can't miss something to talk about climate because this is my field and I have a lot of passion in it. So I've joined lately, but I've heard what you've been discussing and I've been motivated and inspired to keep working with different people from different places, fields. For we all know that climate change is a cross-cutting issue. It touches different sectors, it touches different parts of our lives, and we need to act. It's enough with the talks that we normally tell people that climate change threats people, climate change affects us. Now it is time that we have to act and we have to show people the opportunities they can get through engaging in climate change. So back in my country, what we do through my organization, we do different environment and climate concerned activities that mainly aims at enhancing sustainable development in the community through environmental conservation. And so far, we have been using different ways of making sure that we engage everyone in the society in this action. And that is why our organization is called Call for Environmental Conservation, because we believe it is everyone is called to take part in this move. And the more we act together, the more we accelerate climate action and climate justice. So what we do, we engage every person in the community. And lately, we have been having different projects that mainly aims at involving women and youth in climate action. We launched last year, October, we launched a platform known as Women Action for Climate Justice, a platform that aims at linking women from different sectors and different platforms so that they may use their daily activities and their daily platforms to amplify climate action, because we believe climate touches different parts of our lives, different parts of the sectors. So we can't leave climate action to few people. Instead, we can make it more integrated to different sectors. That is why we chose to use women who are highly influential in our communities. And so far, the other issue that made us engage women in this, we discourage speaking about the threats and complaining about it only. We like encouraging people to act more than complaining more, because we will keep complaining without doing anything, the situation will get even more worse. So we mostly encourage people to engage in climate action. There have been a lot of scenarios, and we all know that how much women are highly affected with climate change or environment distractions. And seeing women being affected is not the only thing that we have to stick on. So we want to see how these women can use their daily sectors, their daily activities and platform to amplify their voices. It is not enough to complain that women are highly affected without doing anything. So our take is to make sure that everyone takes part in climate action. And concerning youth, we believe that youth are the powerhouse of everything that we do, and youth are more energetic and are very influential in the community. They also have different innovative ideas. So we also invest in youth, equipping them with different ideas and innovative techniques, and making them having that spirit of performing different environmental conservation activities that will help us amplify climate action in our community. So in brief, that is what we in our organization. And apart from what we do, what I can speak about climate change, what I can say, climate change is very urgent and it needs urgent actions, and everyone has part of hello.
Yeah, continue. Just go on.
Okay, and everyone has part of making sure that he or she engaged in making sure we reach the sustainable development goals, which are also being affected by climate action. And not only that, we all depend on the environment, so there is nothing that we can do without using the environment, and we are not supposed to be selfish. We found the environment, that is why it keeps supporting us, and we are supposed to make sure that we conserve it and we do whatever we can so that the coming generations, they can enjoy from it. So it is our task, it is everyone's responsibility and duty to make sure that we do whatever we can through anything that we are capable of to make sure that we fight against climate change. So last but not least, we all have to know that climate change is not just a story, it is real. So I've been seeing some people have been taking it as kind of a drama, or kind of a thing that is just popping, of which it's a bad idea. So we should take it even more serious, since itself is serious and the impacts are serious. So of pretending, there is no need of just making it something that we can benefit from, opportunities only doing what we are supposed to do. So everyone should act. The little thing you can do is very one of us that you'll take. It is worth it in protecting our planet. I don't know the of colleague who was speaking. He said it feels good enjoying this planet together. So I think even when we put joint collaboration in protecting it, it will feel even more good and will accelerate the actions even more higher. And we will all enjoy this planet together with our generation. So that is what I can speak. Yeah, that. Congratulations for having such a nice session, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the launch day.
Thank you so much, Makuyusa. And maybe probably before I get back to Richard and David, Makuyusa, one of the objectives we have at EACCGN is we want to we are having an engagement on how we can be able to stop gas, coal, and oil. That's the biggest objective that we want to achieve. And you're going to hear from David and Richard about our approach, what we want to do. And one of the things we believe in is that people's voice is power. And we always believe that when people come together, great things happen, you know. So we have got an extensive conversation across. David has been very impactful for the young people all across different countries of East Africa. And I think Malawi, being outside East Africa, we all know what happened to Malawi about the Freddy cyclone that had hit the country, leaving more than 500,000 people homeless and landless, and all kind of impact that climate change is bringing. And now what you're telling the young people, the activists like the way you are and a writer, is that we need 1 billion people on this network. And the only way we can do this is if we join hands. So if we come to CFC East and ask you, we want to join hands in be part of this network. I hope this is going to. I think you're going to agree with us that they're going to work together. Are you going to offer us your people, your voice, and everything else to allow us to collaborate at EACCGN level to, have voices all across?
Yeah, that is very possible, because as I said before, this thing is, and it touches everyone, so there is no way I can refuse joining hands with you guys. I'm very open to cooperate with you, with my people, and engaging even a very large group of people who are appreciating our work and who we normally cooperate and pushing this agenda.
All right, thank you so much. Now, when I visited Tanzania, it's so amazing that at least some parts of Tanzania really look amazing. Tanzania is quite different from Kenya. Like Kenya, I mean, Tanzania is quite. Most of your streets are clean, cities are clean. I think there's a lot of conservation in terms of tree planting and all that. Unlike informal settlement in Kenya, where you find like this a lot of garbage collected and disposed in and worry about. I got an opportunity to have a long extension conversation with Camellias, who is I think currently unable to talk, and they are doing a credible job through the actions that they do in climate justice and Natalia Foundation do bigger area in terms of recycling. They have a recycling plant. We're thinking on the line of how we can be able to create livelihoods for the young people purposely through their climate actions. And that is what is bringing us to a collective voice under EACCGN. We are thinking on how we can be able to, come together and share the ideas on maybe through what we do, like an activist like you, probably back in the village, there should be economics generated activities across what you do, but either back in the village or maybe through your write-ups and your voice that you use to sensitize communities and people through climate actions. So we were going to have a launch, and probably it's our hope that we'll be able to be having probably also online that day to share more ideas on the same. And I don't know what milestone you have taken so far, especially on the youth at your organization. What can you say you have achieved up to where you are, and people have really benefited from your activities that you are doing at the level of the organization?
Thank you so much. Okay, concerning youth, I can't say there are too many or very few, but are looking from when we started. We don't have a lot of years from when our organization started operating, but we have seen the changes and we have seen how much we have impacted these youth, starting from those who are in universities and in schools. We have tried opening clubs. We have tried opening environmental clubs, schools. The main target of opening these clubs is to make sure that these youth take environment conservation as a serious issue. So they normally prepare different kind of projects or programs that they do in the community, including tree planting, waste collection, street cleanliness, and apart from that, we also have a group of youth who we normally cooperate with them. Some of them are cycling activity, some of them are with trip activities. So what we do, we provide capacity building to them on how to make sure that these activities and programs that they do become even more sustainable in the community, instead of doing things that will be done for a few days and then they leave them. So we normally provide capacity building in groups, taking them out to schools, universities, and even provide them such education. And recently, we have been preparing a certain that aims at technical entrepreneurship project. The main name of the project is to make sure that we help youth get different kind of opportunities through environmental conservation. For example, through waste reduction in the society, we invest in them different innovative ideas, including recycling ideas, recovering ideas. so that through that knowledge, it can help them building their economies, but at the same time serving the environment. And some of them, we provide with them the knowledge of how to use the tree now the in our country have been increasing today, and people have been finding trees here. So we invest that knowledge to these youth, how they can use tree business to not increase their income, but at the same time they'll be helping different people in our society who are in need of those trees to plant them. So I think that is a milestone for us investing in this. We are looking forward to doing different kind of projects and not just a lot of flourishing in their lives, but conservation of our environment.
I just want to say, to respond a little bit back. I love what you say. I love
Okay,
this aspect where
that is great. That is great. And I hope I'm audible. I don't know. I'm doubting my internet. Am I?
are you?
Can you hear me?
Well, we can hear you.
Yeah, can hear you
hear
fine,
me?
Kaka. I can hear you, Kaka.
Can you hear me, Richard?
I can hear you okay, yeah.
I want to add one little thing to what's said, or two little things to what's said. I think this aspect where we
I
do
don't
things.
know. Am I audible?
You're audible, Kaka. I'm not sure. Can you hear us? Sounds like you can't hear us.
So it only works one way, okay.
So just typing you're audible, Kaka.
That is.
So,
David, is there something?
Yeah, I had this. I had this thing I wanted to say.
I think I do not have stable network connection. But I just wanted to quickly respond to Makusa to tell her that we are very resourceful in terms of what we do, and I want them to also be keenly listen to some of the.
I think we can't hear you now. I think we no. But if I may, I just want to say one thing, and in response to the comment about women and what they do, is Richard comes from Sweden, and he's very keen to tell me about how at universities in Sweden, the women are basically outperforming all the boys, and in every aspect of life in Sweden. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Very happy to, before I have to go, unfortunately. I went to university a long time ago, as you imagine. I started in 1986. And already in 1986, I did economics. There were more women than men, or girls than boys, that got into the University of Stockholm's education for economy. But what really caught the headline in Sweden back in 1986 was that for the first time in history, one of the 5 branches of engineering, electrical engineering, had more female than male students across the whole country. And now, 35 years later, out of these 5 branches that you study engineering in Sweden, 4 out of the 5 have more girls than boys. The last one, if you like, the last bastion of where the boys still are in majority, is mining. But in electrical, chemical, architectural, structural, there are now more girls than boys. And we can see that in Sweden across all higher education. that the girls outperform on a massive scale because they all have better grades from school when they apply to university. And all the top programs you study in Sweden, the two most difficult educations to get into is veterinary school and journalism. There are only girls now because the boys just don't get the grades to get in there. And it's becoming a big political debate. Like, what can we do to ensure that you don't get this kind of balance against the guys effectively? Because it's only girls at the top program.
That's because it's only girls who are so good. So
yes,
it's what it is.
but there is a subtle difference in the sense that.
But what I meant is actually that aspect of that empowerment, in so many parts of the world, it just highlights how much of the potential we have to resolve the issues that we face are being lost by not actually empowering the women.
Yeah.
And so it's really great what you talk about in terms of how you go about that. And this aspect where you turn into practical action and focus on practical action, that's how we can get out of the comfort zones that we are in for us to realize that we can actually do more. So all those things are really, really, really positive in what you're doing there. I just wanted to contribute.
Very important. Very, very important.
How are people thinking? So are we, and anything they'd like to add? And any questions you'd like to ask us, actually, because that'll be really, really useful. Maybe we can help inform you with anything that you think we might be able to do that, or.
Okay, so I had Karki saying you are having a certain projects concerning image, meaning guesses, calls. So I wanted to know a bit about it.
Sorry, could you repeat project concerning?
From what Karki said, if I'm not mistaken, it's like you are looking forward to having a certain program concerning image, guesses, calls, something like that. So I wanted to know about it.
Could you tell me what image, just so that I. EACCGN, you mean?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can. You mean EACCGN? What Kaka is doing with the group? What we want to do. So this is. Let me just describe where we are, what we want to be involved with, what we want to do, and so on. We fundamentally believe, Richard and I fundamentally believe, that the most pressing problem we have got today in the world today is the crazy weather that's disrupting everything that we do. And we have to tackle this head on. And we want to be able to tackle this head on by taking control of by taking oil, gas, and coal out of the financial markets, basically. They shouldn't be bought and sold by people. Like you buy and sell potatoes, basically. They harm everybody, but we need to do this in a way. But the only people who is actually going to do this is us. Nobody else is going to do it. So that's kind of the basic part of where we are. When we call on people to do this, what we have to respect is a very, very important thing, which is we are late, and people will only be able to help and lend us the voice that we need. So we need all the people around, and they'll only be able to do so if they are able to have livelihoods to live themselves. And we have to tackle that. We have to address it. If we don't address that, then what happens is we are like people who stand 10,000 meters away and says, "Oh, you must do this." That's not very helpful to people who can't figure out how they're going to get a job, can't figure out how they're going to get some rice, can't figure out how they're going to deal with, getting their kids to school or anything of the kind. So we want to actually engage with communities along and actually ask people when they do so, just as you've described, It's actually the actions that you can do. And that's what empowers you, because when you do those things, you feel that you are actually more capable of dealing with the world and the problems of the world around. You're together with a community, and that's what lends us the voice. And then together we can come, and then we can come all together in facing that. So what does that entail? That entails a number of different things from within our experience. First of all, we all need to understand a little bit about economics, because the economics underlie everything. And we need to understand a bit about economics because it's very deceptive. The economics we live under at the moment, is fundamentally what caused us to have all the problems we have at the moment. So if we just willy-nilly follow the same approaches, we will find that we are not actually making things better for ourselves, and we are not making things better for others. So there's a certain understanding of actually what that means. So that's part of an education we want to help with. And for Richard and I, we spend a lot of time working in that kind of investment world, and we see all the pitfalls, and we have understood how the thinking doesn't work. And we collected those together into a book about that. The next part is actually how do you find the appropriate steps forward? And finding the appropriate steps forward is much like as you described. It is really about where you are and what matters to you there, and being able to have the right kind of helping hand along the way so that you are empowered together with your community to go forward. And that in part is, some of it is technology, but it's appropriate technology. It's not technology like things that you cannot afford. We had a conversation with a group with some students in Malawi, and they were asking us about electric cars. You know, if you're in Malawi, electric cars is just out of the question. It's just a very silly thing to even be proposing because the electricity is not sufficiently stable or sturdy. There are other things that are more important and better things to do. And in terms of what do you then deal with, kind of how do you get energy, how do you get those things, there are all kinds of appropriate technology that may be possible. But we also believe very much that it's not just about solving things. It's also about how we keep to a sensible state of mind. There is a very kind of, I use the word spiritual, even though some people don't like that word because it has all sorts of connotations they don't like about it. There is some aspect about the reason why we are interested. And it is more than simply because we want to solve a problem. It's because we somehow feel that we want to be more together with people around us, together with the world around us, to be able to learn how to be at once more in peace with it. And that's important. And I think understanding those aspects is important. So there's an aspect of that we want to bring along to the table also. I mentioned about the clothing company we spoke to this morning in Norway. And I think that there is a connection between young people in Africa and young people across the world. And that connection is really important because that's how we can spread the experience you're having. So when you talk of the things you're doing with the women in your community and empowering them, that's a story that can go to many, many places. And it's not necessarily about whether it is successful or not. It is that we can come together and do things and take steps. And that's really where the empowerment is. And again, that's a part which, you know, together with the EACCGN, we want to be encouraging and building up ideas of how can we do that. So this is kind of like, how do we map out this path towards our future? And what are the things that help us with that? And what essentially is in that sense is that the map is somewhere where we feel we have a place in, so that we can see forward and we know where we're coming from. Does that answer your question? Hello? I hope that answered your question.
Yes, you have answered my question, and I just like you. I liked your presentation. I've understood. Well understood.
Thank you. Thank you. And I, you know, there's this one thing that's really important. Kaka taught me a phrase. He says, you know, only the person wearing the shoes know how tight they are. And we've been talking a lot about, climate and sensitizing climate education. And there's a part of it which is that I feel very strongly, and I used to be a university lecturer for some years. So I have some experience of teaching and so on. And it's this part is that we learn, as we teach, we learn from the people we teach. And that's how we come to understanding how to go forward. So that's what we want to do ourselves, Richard and myself. Richard, who's just had to leave. So when we speak with you, we want to be learning from you, and so that we can understand actually how we can go forward.
Oh, thank you so much. I just like your concern, and we all learn from each other. And the more we keep in touch through learning what you're doing and what we are doing, we keep learning and we keep improving in what we do for our communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions, comments? Any other?
I think there are people we've not heard from them. I'm not sure that Mary has spoken. Okay, I can see Bramwell wanna ask. Okay, go on, Bramwell. Bramwell, do you think you have a question? I see you like you want to ask something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a network problem. That's why I went out of the meeting and I've fixed it. Okay, so mine is not a question to be specific, but it's just a, how do I put it? Okay, it's just a kind of way of trying to help in solving climate action. And I was thinking if we can, the way we have started with the universities and the student, the young, the youths, if you can try to create more awareness, like Twitter. Sometimes we have these Twitter storms, like we post, then we retweet, we like, we share, so that we may create awareness. Sometimes it's all about making people know what's happening. Sometimes people don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't understand. And now we, as people who have who are innovative, who are thinking ahead of them, who are forecasting how the repercussion may be worse if we fail to take action as human beings, because I believe it's our mandate to take care of everything that's happening in this world. So if we can use other ways of recruiting more people and creating awareness, especially like maybe those using social media platforms, because today the world is technologized, and most people spend most of their time on their phones, laptops, or their computers. So if we can create posters, maybe to circulate, maybe say weekly or monthly, just a reminder, something to keep people on toes. Yeah, something of the sort. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this aspect where how we communicate and all the rest. As I said, I was at a meeting earlier where people were talking about mapping the future, and what they were doing was, talking about how to come back together, sort of, either monthly or weekly, and keeping informed in that way. And I think what's really helpful, and this goes to what I would want to do along, is that sharing of the things that we do when we do that. So it's not just sort of, here's a matter of concern. It is, as the lady was speaking before, it is, we doing this. Do you want to give it a try too, or tell us what you're doing, and how we improve our livelihoods along. And those for me, those are really important, because in the United Kingdom at the moment, life is hard for a lot of people. even though in comparison it is much easier for them than others. What happens is that the state of mind of feeling that we can do something about it is the issue. And if we don't see those stories that tell us we can do something about it, then we feel very much trapped and is escaping that. That's where a lot of that messaging and things can come.
Yeah, I think that is that's a nice a nice comment from Bromwell. Yeah, creating awareness and sensitization is very key. And sometimes we do the spaces. And by the way, we are organizing for a very big space. I think we're going to communicate this one early enough. Before the launch, we thought that it's good to bring different youth groups, different youth climate networks, different social enterprise on climate chapter. We will be doing this. We want to have the biggest crowd ever, like the biggest audience on the Twitter storm, and we are for sure going to explain how we are going to do this. It's going to happen before the launch. So I'm actually currently talking to Friday for Future and a few other people that I think they are more influential in terms of Twitter space and all that, so that we can be able to have one conversation. And I think that then when we'll be able to have you, Richard, and those coming in through on the same. So yeah, it's a very important concern, and I hope you're going to do all the same. We still need, probably if you have question, you can keep on asking. But meanwhile, maybe, I don't know, Mary Kinyero, if you could say something.
Okay,
Mary, are you here with us?
evening.
Yeah, we hear you. We hear
Can
you.
hear you. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Kinyero, a Tanzanian. I'm in Natalia Foundation. I have been a little bit late. I haven't had you from the beginning, but I'm trying to catch up, and I think I'll ask for the meeting. I can see someone is recording. So if the person could share, so as for us who were late, we can get some information. Thank you.
Absolutely, I will make that available. We've done this so that people who couldn't attend is also able to participate and join.
David, I think you can probably before maybe Upendo you leave, I want to make a comment that we intend to go live for the sake of people who cannot be able to be traveling to Kenya for the launch. We will be doing this on because we all have a network of connection for the all chat groups on WhatsApp. We'll be able to communicate where exactly you want you to be following this live, because we want like for all the speeches and everything they're going to do, although it's going to be recorded as well, we can still share it later on after, but we wanted to have you guys follow live, and if possible we can also have some of the questions raised from wherever you are in. I'm trying to talk to Precious in Malawi also. We could possibly maybe raise questions from where they are, and on the congregation and the rest of the students, we can answer them live, and you see, going with this, it's good to show people what climate change is doing to the community, so that they can be able to see that this is not just stories as what Mokuisa had commented on the same. And I hope that these stories are available on us, and I think we'll be able to showcase some of the things that we've been the people have been suffering through climate change. So I think, Mokuisa, before you leave, I'll be able to add you to the chat. I know I had an issue with your number, but I'm going to add you to the chat so that we can be able to organize on which platform you'll be able to be freely following. And probably if you could also pin questions on the live chat, that one can also still be catered for on the same venue date. So we are going to have we're going to have David traveling to Kenya for the launch. And we're also going to have other speakers coming, like the director for climate, Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. He'll also be speaking, and all sorts of business communities. And I hope there are so many things you've not heard probably from David on the approach on climate justice, and especially on the area of transformational ownership. They still have much you need to hear from them. So stick around. We'll probably also extend this chat to add David and Richard to the Tanzanian chat group WhatsApp, so that in case of any reading material that you need to find out, you can able to have this on board. So yeah, thank you, David. I think I can give you to wind up, and probably if Camillus will be talking to us, the better if he's in a position. But meanwhile, I can give you to wind up on the same.
So thank you, and unfortunately Richard's had to step away, but really appreciate the comments you have, and actually, as always, I'm amazed at all the stuff that everyone is doing. From us, we are humbled to be able to be part of your group, and we want to be able to engage forward along with it. We actually look to the future with a lot of optimism. We know it's not going to be easy, but it's not about being easy. It is actually about being able to come together, and that we very much feel that sense from all of this. So we very much think that actually, no matter what happens along, it's really about whether we allow ourselves, empower ourselves to be able to say, we are together, we will face it together, and we'll find ways, and there are always opportunities and there are always resources. We just have to change the way we look at the world and open our eyes a bit more. And so, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks, David. Do you have, okay, sorry, I think we lost Richard. Simon, are you in a position to say something? So for the Tanzanian chapter, EACCGN, we're going to have Simon Camillus attending physical launch. He's going to be here with us in Kenya, and it's going to represent the team for the physical attendees that will be attending. We also have to we're having a team from Rwanda as well. They'll be part of us physical, some of them. And by the way, Makuusa, some of the students raise a concern about the East African Youth Parliament. There's a big concern on how we can be able to connect the EALA members of parliament in East Africa to be able to also be this part of the conversation. And the letter was drafted. I don't know whether you know any person from anyone from Tanzania who sits at the East African Youth Parliament. Do you know anyone? Oh, she has left. So then I think, thank you, David. If you don't have much, then I think we can wind up. I think Bramwell, we can talk with you alongside and see how we can be able to organize for the Twitter Storm space one of these days before the launch, if that's okay with you.
So I have a question before we wind up.
All right.
Okay, so I was asking, like, okay, I'm also a founder of Social Justice and Peace Club, and one of our objectives also on climate justice, environmental justice, and social justice. We work on both the injustices. Like, we are so broad. So I was asking, can I involve my members in this activity, the coming event at Square or other things? Because I feel like this thing needs more youth, and it needs a voice. When the voice goes for so far, we get mass. Then it has just been said that the power of the people. So if you have the numbers, the power also gets. So I was asking, if am I allowed to invite them, like let them know what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. You can invite as many as you can. We have no limit on this. What we're doing is we've done all the invitation letters to different schools, and you can chat me after the meeting on WhatsApp, I give you a letter to your network, or we can draft a letter to your network to invite you officially. The event is going to be in Strathmore, and there's also a Google link that people are using to register online. So if you can drop the link for the Google form for people to register, because we have kind of security issues at the university Strathmore, so we needed at least a week, in a week's time, everything to be ready. So it will be of advantage. I can drop you everything that you need from our side, so that you can be able to attend. Yeah, it's going to be a very informative session. So we have no limit to anyone. We have extended this one to all kind of youth groups. We're also going to have Laudato Si movement also coming through. So it's a big engagement. So we don't have a reason why you should not be part of this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thanks. So David, I think if you have no much, I think we can wind up there.
Sorry, I muted myself there. No, that's great. Thank you very much to everybody. It's really, kind of great to be able to speak to you all. So let me close the meeting now, and I'll make a recording available and put it into the WhatsApp chats. So
thank you. I've added you to the Tanzanian chat WhatsApp.
Yep.
WhatsApp.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and good night.
Bye. Good night. Good night, everybody.